I would now request the Vice Chancellor, Minhaj University, Lahore, Dr. Muhammad Aslam Ghori, to officially open the conference with a welcome note to all attendees and to our honorable guests and speakers. I would also like to highlight that Punjab Higher Education Commission is the proud sponsor of this conference and for many more conferences to follow.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Deputy Chairman, Board of Governors, Dr. Hussain Mahiuddin Qadri, respected foreign guests, keynote speaker, guest of honor from the universities of the Pakistan and abroad, worthy deans, heads of departments, and faculty members from the various universities and universities of Pakistan and Minhaj University. Respectable media personnel, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, as Vice Chancellor of Minhaj University, Lahore, I would like to express from core of my heart a very warm welcome to each of you to attend the first international conference on religious pluralism and the world peace. Some of you have come a long way to be with us, and we are graciously honored and encouraged by your presence. I would like to extend thanks to Most Honorable Dr. Nizamuddin, Chairperson of Punjab Higher Education Commission, for collaboration in organizing such a unique conference. Especially proud to mention here two departments of Minhaj University which have directly involved in organizing this memorable international conference. Number one, the School of Religion and Philosophy, and School of Peace and Counterterrorism Studies. We hope this conference will be providing you in-depth information and knowledge about the distinguished religions of Pakistan and what role they can play to accomplish and establish peace and harmony in the world. Minhaj University, Lahore is sponsoring this conference because we are convinced that the world religion need to make a contribution to world peace, not only on paperwork, but in deed as well. The words and the actions of the world religious communities should become a part and parcel sport for those who are already involved in the novel task of counter-terrorism. Let us pray this conference become the voice of religion, voice of religious heard in the wider community. Finally, I hope this conference will stimulate serious discussion, bringing forth some novel ideas and provide a thought-provoking message to the world about our commitment to the world peace for the prevention of terrorism in all its forms. I now declare the conference open and ready to begin for proceeding. Thanks to all.
Now, I invite Dr. Herman Rober, Head School of Religions and Philosophy, to introduce the conference and give a brief introduction of the schools of religions and philosophy and peace and counter-terrorism.
Assalamu alaikum. A greeting for everyone. A greeting that all can accept, because it is a greeting of peace. Vice Chancellor Dr. Aslam Ghori, Dr. Hussain, Deputy Chairman of Board of Directors, distinguished guests from different universities, faculty members of Minhaj University, guests from overseas, from Nigeria, from Malaysia, from Australia, my own country, and I think I've got everyone. Welcome to you especially. And finally, welcome to all the students who have come today to be present at this conference. I think we've already heard the keynote speech. For me, the keynote speech was already presented in the, or through the different readings that we heard from the holy books. We already know what that message is, and it was the same for every book or for every religion, as we say. And so we already know the message, and that was the best keynote speech. We will soon hear another keynote speech. But I think we are now that message. We have come here to hear that message and to absorb it and to take it with us. It's now part of us. And during these 2 days, it will become more part of us. And I think it's already a sign of the fact that you are here is a sign that that message is being heard. The fact that you have come in such numbers to this conference, a conference which with this kind of title, Religious Pluralism, is already a sign that you're open, that you're listening, that you want to find a way in which the religions can make peace. So I'm very encouraged by the fact that so many people have come, not only from overseas, but also from within Lahore, from within Pakistan. It's a great sign of unity between the religions. I'm not sure that in Australia you would get so many people coming to a conference with this kind of theme. Louder? Not loud enough? Acha. Okay. Kuch zyada loud hona chahiye. I thought I was shouting, but I'm not shouting. So you got what I said, I hope. I won't repeat what I said. I'm very encouraged by your presence here, and as has already been said, the purpose of this conference is to seek greater collaboration between the religions, the world religions, and peacemaking. World religions and peacemaking. There's a connection, there's a collaboration. And we have two departments at this university, the School of Religions and Philosophy, and then we also have the School of Peace and Counter-Terrorism. And these two schools, or departments, are trying to collaborate, are trying to find ways to work together, are trying to find ways of producing scholars with a broader vision of the unity of all religions and of the way that all the religions can contribute towards peace. That is our purpose in these new departments at Minhaj University, and I'm very proud to be part of that. I'm very happy to be part of that effort and that vision, and we are already receiving students, and gradually this project will grow. Now, I have to say a few things about the conference itself. In a few moments, we'll hear the keynote speech. And after that, we may have time for a panel discussion, or maybe you prefer to go to lunch. I'm not sure yet, but that decision will be made soon. But the keynote speech will soon be given, and then lunch and prayer. And then after that, this group will be divided into two groups according to your own choice. There are two halls in the building behind you on the top floor, and each of those halls will present papers on a specific topic, and the topics are outlined in this booklet, which I'll hope you'll receive very soon. And so if you could choose which of the topics that you prefer, you could attend the lectures according to that topic in either one hall or the other. So we call them concurrent sessions. And that will be the pattern for this afternoon, and that will be the pattern for tomorrow. Until at the end of the day tomorrow, we will have another keynote speech from Dr. Rohan Gunaratna, who's come from Singapore. He's still flying around looking for Lahore. But he will land, and he will give us a keynote speech tomorrow afternoon. And after that, we'll have the closing ceremony, at which Dr. Hussain will present the conference declaration, which is a statement from all of us about what we wish to do, what we wish to happen in this country between religions and peace, how these two could collaborate for peace. So that's the outline of the conference. I welcome you to this conference. I'm, as I say, very happy that you have come. Just by your presence, you're already saying something about this message of peace. And I'm sure you will develop your vision and your understanding of the way religions can work for peace by attending this conference. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Herman. There has been a little change in our program. There has been a little change in our program, and absolutely because of unforeseen weather conditions, our keynote speaker for this session, Dr. Rohan Gunaratna, has still not arrived. His flight is on the way. He will be addressing in the closing session. We have made a little change. We have invited Dr. Adrian Feldman to be our honorable keynote speaker for this session. And after the session, we will have a panel discussion headed by Dr. Herman. Thank you. Over to Dr. Adrian Feldman. Dr. Herman will introduce, and he will also moderate the session and also the introduction for Dr. Adrian Feldman.
I first met Dr. Adrian Feldman in Australia a couple of years ago at another conference, which is like this. And I was so impressed by what he said at that conference. I still remember some of the things he said. And so when we were planning for this conference, I immediately thought of Dr. Adrian. And he told me that he's already been to Pakistan, and he has lots of memories of his first visit to Pakistan. And he's very happy. He was very happy to come and to share something about the Buddhist religion, which was once the majority, which was once the major religion in this area where we are now. Buddhism was the dominant religion. So there are plenty of evidence. There's plenty of evidence for that in the Lahore Museum in Anarkali, which we'll be visiting. So he's happy to come and to share what he's found, the wisdom, the tremendous wisdom of Buddhism, which I think is something we can all learn from, whether we are Muslims or Christians or Hindus or Sikh. We can all learn from the wisdom of the Buddha without having to compromise, without having to leave our own religion behind. We will be enriched by what Dr. Adrian has to say. So I welcome him to the podium. Thank you.
The course of the keynote speech is divided into two parts. We will have a 15-minute session by the keynote speaker. Then it will be translated by Dr. Naeem Mushtaq in Urdu. It will be summarized and translated. Then we'll have another 15-minute session and then a 5-minute session at the end for the translation and the summarization. Urdu का खुलासा ये एंड में बयान करेंगे इनके डॉक्टर एड्रियन फेल्डमैन की कीनोट स्पीच का.
Honourable Vice-Chancellor, the faculty members and the students and the general public, I'm delighted to be here this morning. A little surprised. I didn't realise that I'd be doing a keynote speech, but as it is the will of Allah, I'm happy to oblige. Assalamu alaikum. As Dr. Herman mentioned, I first came to Pakistan in January 1972. I was a 28-year-old medical doctor on my way home from London, where I'd been working and studying postgraduate study, back to Australia. And my friends were in Afghanistan, and I joined them for a little adventure. At that time, the border between Pakistan and India was closed, so we decided to have a big adventure and get to India by going down to Karachi, where there was a boat going from the Gulf to Karachi to Bombay. And that was only $5 for a deck passage, so we thought that was very economical. I said to my friends, when we're in Pakistan, I've already been on the train from Karachi to Peshawar. Why don't we build a raft and float down the Indus River all the way to Karachi? They agreed, and we did that. We went to a small town called Calabar, where the Indus River comes out of the mountains. So we were at the small town of Calabar, where we bought a small rowing boat, built a cabin on it, bought a sail, and there were 5 of us. We floated and sailed down the Indus River to as far as Sakar, where we finally finished the journey. During that period, my background was of no religion. My worldview was of science, and I had no religious upbringing at all. But I understood from my medical work and training that there was something greatly missing in our minds. And I discovered what I thought was missing here in Pakistan. The way in which the people greeted us with such wonderful hospitality, and their spiritual peace was most moving to me, and it enabled me to open my mind to religion. One particular experience was on the bus between Peshawar and Dera Ismail Khan. The bus stopped in the desert for people to make their prayers to Mecca. And the four of us, the Australians, we sat in the sand watching, and we were very much moved by the beauty and the peace of this desert ritual. And so I attribute to Pakistan my spiritual awakening. It led me to Buddhism, which I find is very suitable from a Western scientific point of view, in particular the psychology of Buddhism. So I want to refer mainly to the psychology of Buddhism during this talk. I feel very honored to repay the people of Pakistan the kindness which you showed me in opening my eyes. Today it's very clear that the age-old conflict between good and evil has entered a dangerous phase, and disharmony and evil are gaining the ascendancy. We don't know to what depths our present society will descend, but I firmly believe that genuine practitioners of the world religions can lead the way in at least stemming the tide. Although I know not much about Buddhism and much less about the other world religions, my optimism that things can be made better comes from my belief that the great religious traditions of Moses, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Gautama Buddha, and others have a common theme of non-discriminating love and compassion for all beings, and ethical conduct based upon those love and compassion. So, hoping that my belief is not naive, I feel that the means for attaining peace are already shown in the teachings of the great prophets. And the method contained in those teachings is for each of us to understand the deep meaning behind the teachings and to put those meanings into practice ourselves. Is that one better? Oh, that sounds better. Okay. One of my main teachers, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, has frequently emphasized that those who indulge in violence and murder under the banner of religion are no longer genuine religious persons, because all religions embrace love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, contentment, and self-discipline. And he says that by maintaining those principles, we can build genuine harmony in society and between religions on the basis of mutual respect, mutual learning, and mutual admiration. So that is what I believe will come out of this conference. The fundamental tenet of Buddhist teachings is that all disharmony begins in our own minds. It doesn't come from outside. It comes from confusion in relation to how we exist as individuals, and based upon that confusion, we generate mistaken ideas of what we are, who we are, and how we fit in. And that mistaken confusion leads to the disturbing emotions of selfishness, of anger, attachment, pride, jealousy. And so, as each individual cannot control his or her disturbing emotions, collectively we disturb each other's minds, and so society experiences turmoil as a result of the collective turmoil in the minds of ourselves. So the spiritual path for each individual is internal growth in wisdom, understanding reality, and great compassion and love for all living beings. These acquirements, these attainments of wisdom and compassion are not in our head. They're attained in our heart. In other words, they're not intellectual. We need to train our mind to overcome the disturbing emotions and cultivate constructive, harmonious emotions and attitudes towards each other. And this is possible. Each one of us has the potential to achieve the full awareness of reality and the full spiritual attainment of universal love and compassion. Would you like to translate now?
Just for a few minutes, if you could just stay away from the room.
I'd like to invite Dr. Naeem Mushtaq for the translation and the Urdu khulasa.
You would like to sit down if you wish, whatever. Please.
This one? Okay. बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम. मैं सिर्फ मोटे मोटे बुनियादी नुकात जो हैं आपकी गुफ्तगू के उसका समरी पेश कर दूंगा. सबसे पहले डॉक्टर एड्रीन ने फरमाया कि उनको पाकिस्तान आके बहुत खुशी हुई और ये यहाँ पहले भी आ चुके हैं, और पाकिस्तानी अवाम की मज़हब के साथ मोहब्बत, मजहबी इक़दार के साथ मोहब्बत ने उनको मज़हब की तरफ राग़िब किया. ये मेडिकल स्टूडेंट थे और मेडिकल साइंस के शोबे से इनका ताल्लुक़ था, तो ये कोई इतने मजहबी नहीं थे, मगर पाकिस्तानी मुआशरे की मज़हब के साथ मोहब्बत के नतीजे में इनका ध्यान मज़हब की तरफ हुआ और बाद में इन्होंने बुद्ध मज़हब को अपने मज़हब के तौर पे अपना लिया. और वो फरमाते हैं कि बहैसियत बुद्ध मज़हब के मेरा ये अक़ीदा है कि हमारे मुआशरे के जो दहशत गर्दी है, इंतहा पसंदी है, अमन की ख़राबी के जितने भी मामलात हैं, वो अगर हज़रत मूसा अलैहिस्सलाम, हज़रत ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम, हज़ूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की ज़िंदगी और तमाम अंबिया अलैहिस्सलाम की ज़िंदगी का अगर मुशाहिदा किया जाए, मुतालिया किया जाए, तो उन तमाम की ज़िंदगियों में इन सारी ख़राबियों को रिमूव करने का इलाज मौजूद है. यानी अगर हम सदके दिल से इन सीरतों का मुतालिया करें और इनसे सीखने की कोशिश करें, तो मुआशरे की हर ख़राबी का, खा वो दहशत गर्दी हो, इंतहा पसंदी हो या किसी भी शक्ल में एंटी मज़हब हो, तो उन सारी ख़राबियों का जो इलाज है वो इन सीरतों में मौजूद है. और आपने फरमाया कि चूँकि दलाई लामा आपके उस्ताद हैं, तो आपके उस्ताद ने फरमाया है, दलाई लामा ने, कि दहशत गर्दों का कोई मज़हब नहीं होता. दहशत गर्द सिर्फ़ अपने आमाल के ज़िम्मेदार और नुमाइंदा होते हैं, अपने मज़हब के नहीं. तो ये जहन में रखना चाहिए. उसके बाद आपने फरमाया है कि मुआशरे में अमन, बाहमी मोहब्बत और इज़्ज़त और एहतराम की बुनियाद पर मुआशरे को डेवलप किया जा सकता है और तमाम मज़ाहिब में इसकी गुंजाइश मौजूद है. यानी मुआशरे की ख़राबी का मज़हब को इल्ज़ाम देने की बजाय अगर मज़हब से, सदके दिल से, खुलूस नीयत से इन तमाम ख़राबियों का इलाज डिस्कवर किया जाए, तो तमाम मज़ाहब में इनका इलाज मौजूद है. इसके बाद उन्होंने फरमाया कि मेरी जो गुफ्तगू का मेन फोकस होगा वो बुद्धिज़्म की नफ्सियात के हवाले से होगा, और उसमें यह है कि तामीर शख्सियत के शख्सी पहलू जो हैं, जिसमें हम तसव्वुफ़ के इस्लाम में रज़ाइल अखलाक बोलते हैं, गुस्सा है, लालच है, मनफी रवैये हैं, इन तमाम चीज़ों को जब तक एड्रेस नहीं किया जाएगा, जब तक ज़ात के ऊपर फोकस नहीं किया जाएगा, मुआशरे में बेहतरी और भलाई पैदा करना मुमकिन नहीं है. क्योंकि मुआशरा हम सब की ज़ाती शख्सी चीज़ों को जब जोड़ते हैं तो उससे मुआशरा वजूद में आता है। तो यानी दूसरे लफ्ज़ों में इन्होंने फरमाया कि खुद ही पर तवज्जो किए बगैर, अपनी ज़ात पर तवज्जो किए बगैर और अपने शख्सी औसाफ को डेवलप किए बगैर मुआशरे में अमन, मोहब्बत और बाहमी एहतराम के रिश्तों का फ़रोग़ मुमकिन नहीं है। तो बुद्ध मज़हब की तालीमात के मुताबिक सबसे पहला कदम जो मुआशरे में अमन और मोहब्बत के फ़रोग़ का है वो अपनी ज़ात को पाकीज़ा करना है, अपनी ज़ात में से वो तमाम एलिमेंट्स का ख़ात्मा करना है जिससे मुआशरे में बुराई, नफ़रत, दहशतगर्दी, इंतहा पसंदी और ये सारे रवैये जन्म लेते हैं। तो अब तक की गुफ्तगू का मेन खुलासा यही है। थैंक यू।
First, I want to approach the basic cultivation of wisdom in Buddhist practice. Every child is born self-conscious, and we initially depend upon our parents for our happiness and our protection from things that we dislike. So as a young child, we identify with our parents, with their moral values. We see them as being perfect in every way. I remember when I was a child, for some reason, I used to think my father was a policeman who could do anything, remove any problem. But I was soon disenchanted. And so, as we grow up, we are constantly faced with threats. Society does not do what we want it to do, and we're faced with problems, particularly with our self-image. So we use role models, and we move from our parents to our peers, to teachers, to famous people, to rock singers, or to athletes, and to religious teachers, and so on, always with the need to establish a self-identity which makes us feel content and able to deal with the world and to avoid the threatening occurrences in life that bring unhappiness and to bring as much peace as possible. Now we know how, if we identify with a football team, for example, there can be riots when our team is the only team, the best team, the supreme team, and all the others are not just bad footballers, they're our enemy. And we've seen in England, in Europe, in South America, riots at football games where people kill each other in defense of the honor of their team. It's crazy how we become murderous over a football team. So it's quite natural, because of the flaws of the human mind, that when we adopt a religion without understanding the real meaning of the teachings of the founding prophets, we can become murderous in defense of our religion because we incorporate it into our self-image. It's a childish attitude which brings about the great threat of terrorism. That's all it is. It's so sad, so terribly sad, that even though our bodies are mature and adult bodies, our minds are infantile in that we have no self-confidence and we have no love for others who are different from ourselves. This, from the Buddhist point of view, is the foundation of all disharmony, including the terrible acts within society, domestic violence, and just personal unhappiness, depression, anxiety, the inability to be happy. In the West, suicide is the commonest cause of death in young people. And that suicide comes from a sense of meaninglessness and very much a lack of self-esteem, low self-image, and a feeling of unable to fit in and terrified of criticism, of being disliked, and so on. We see the only solution is to end this life. from the Buddhist point of view, it's not the end, because life continues after death. The wisdom that we need to understand opposes the root misconception we have about ourselves. This is very, very subtle. We're born with it. When we think I, what appears to our mind is a true, real me here somewhere, pervading the body and mind. There is an I. And that becomes the center of our self-image. And we're so sensitive about our self-image in our own eyes and in the eyes of others. And that is what makes us jealous when anybody threatens to take away that which we support for our self-image. It makes us angry, aggressive towards anything which threatens our self-image. The solution is extremely subtle. The solution is to understand that we don't exist in the way we think we exist. That each individual is merely a combination of body and mind, which was given a name by its parents, and we use our name when we introduce ourselves to each other. We swap names, and we all understand that the name that goes with that particular face. From the Buddhism says there is nothing else. That is the person in their own right. So there's no need to be so self-conscious, so acutely sensitive about what others think about me, about my football team, whether it wins or not, about my religion. We don't have time to go in more detail on the wisdom side. The compassion side of the spiritual path is equally important. Wisdom and compassion must go together to be practiced fully. And compassion is based upon the Buddhist teachings that our mind survives death and it continues on taking another birth somewhere else according to the karma, the actions that we've created during life. And this cycle of death, rebirth, has no beginning. That even before this universe, there was a prior universe, and the mind, which we call my mind, has been taking birth, living, dying, since time without beginning. In all of that beginningless past, we've all been related to each other. Each one of us has been each other's mother, father, husband, wife, brother, sister, so many times in past lives. So in reality, we're one universal family. This isn't just an intellectual concept, it is a reality. You see, to have equal love for every living being is dependent upon people appearing nicely to our minds, to our eyes. We need to have a warm feeling of love. And we don't have that now. We have it for our family and friends, but limited towards others. So if we can reflect upon the reality that we are so closely related to each other, everyone is our family, then not just humans, but birds, animals, insects, fish, all creatures with mind have been our mother and father in past lives. When we are aware of that, a sense of warmth arises whenever we meet another living being, and that's the foundation of love and compassion and the universal responsibility. Just as we all have a sense of responsibility as a child to look after our parents when they're in trouble, as they're growing old, as they're facing death, naturally, it's my responsibility as their child to look after them. Exactly the same way we should relate to every living being. It's my responsibility to look after them. And that attitude is the driving energy of the spiritual path. That is what will lead us to our goal, whether it be heaven or, in Buddhist terms, nirvana or enlightenment. This attitude of universal responsibility is the key. So, with that word key, I introduce the keynote speech. Thank you.
जी बिस्मिल्लाह। ये सबसे मुश्किल पार्ट है ट्रांसलेट करना। अच्छा, जो मोटी जो ख़ुलासे के तौर पे बयान फरमाया डॉक्टर एडविन ने कि एक तो ये जुमला इन्होंने कहा कि हर बच्चा पाकीज़ा शऊर लेकर पैदा होता है, यानी हर बच्चा जब पैदा होता है तो उसकी फ़ितरत पाकीज़ा होती है। दूसरी बात इन्होंने ये फरमाई सेल्फ़ इमेज के हवाले से कि मुआशरे में अगर अमन और मोहब्बत के रवैयों को फ़रोग़ देना है तो उसके लिए हमें किसी ऐसे रोल मॉडल की तलाश रहेगी जो इन अमन और मोहब्बत के रवैयों के साथ मुआशरे में फ़िज़िकली या इन रियलिटी एग्ज़िस्ट करता हो, वो कोई फ़र्ज़ी चीज़ ना हो बल्कि तारीख़ में उसका वजूद साबित हो। और बच्चे जब बचपन ही से रोल मॉडल की तलाश में रहते हैं, वो कभी अपने वालिदैन की शक्ल में अपने रोल मॉडल को देखते हैं, कभी अपने असातिज़ा की शक्ल में उनको रोल मॉडल मिलता है, और जब अपना शऊर पुख्ता लेकर मुआशरे में जाते हैं तो वो मज़हबी रहनुमा या वो सियासी रहनुमा जिनको वो अपना रोल मॉडल समझता है, उनके किरदार से इंस्पायरेशन लेके अपने किरदार को उनके किरदार की तरह बनाने की कोशिश करता है। तो अगर उनके रोल मॉडल में अमन, मोहब्बत, प्यार ये चीज़ें पाई जाएंगी तो यही चीज़ें उसके फॉलोअर्स के कैरेक्टर्स में भी पाई जाएंगी। तो इन्हीं चीज़ों के मिलने से मुआशरे में अमन, मोहब्बत और प्यार पैदा होता है। और एक बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट उन्होंने बात कही कि सारे मज़ाहिब, जितने भी मज़ाहिब इस वक्त मौजूद हैं, उनको उनके बानियाने मज़ाहिब की तालीमात और किरदार की रोशनी में समझने की ज़रूरत है। जब हम अपने मुआशरे में मौजूद उनके नुमाइंदों के किरदार की रोशनी में उन मज़ाहिब को समझने की कोशिश करेंगे तो कहीं ना कहीं जजमेंट में गलती कर जाएंगे। इसलिए अगर इस्लाम को समझना है तो हज़रत सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की सीरत तैयबा पे डायरेक्ट फ़ोकस करें बजाय कि किसी रहनुमा को देखें। तो ज़रूरी है कि जो हमारे मौजूदा रहनुमा हैं उनको भी देखें, मगर मेन फोकस जहाँ से इंस्पायरेशन लेनी है वो तमाम मज़ाहिब के जो बानियाने मज़ाहिब हैं, यहूदियत है, ईसाईयत है, इस्लाम है, तो इनकी जो सीरतें हम तक पहुँचती हैं, इनकी सीरत तैयबा के ज़रिए भी उन मज़ाहिब की असल तालीमात तक पहुँचने की कोशिश करें ताकि मुआशरे में कोई मजहबी रहनुमा उन तालीमात से हट के किसी और तालीम पर मुआशरे को ले जाने की कोशिश ना करे। तो चूँकि वो कहते हैं कि बाज़ औक़ात इंसान अपने ज़ाती मफाद और ख्वाहिशात की रोशनी में मज़हब को नई ताबीर और तशरीह देता है, तो इससे भी अमन जो है वो ख़राब होता है। इसीलिए बुद्ध मज़हब में सबसे ज़्यादा सेल्फ़ इमेज, जो आपका इमेज है, जो आपकी ज़ात है, उस पर सबसे ज़्यादा तवज्जो दी जाती है कि उसको जितना से ज़्यादा प्योरीफाई करते चले जाएंगे उतना ज़्यादा क्लैरिटी के साथ हकीकत से आशनाई आपकी बढ़ती जाएगी। इसलिए ये सोचना कि मैं अपनी नज़रों में ख़ुद कौन हूँ और दूसरों की नज़रों में ख़ुद कौन हूँ, बसा औक़ात इंसान दूसरों की ख्वाहिश में अपनी सारी ज़िंदगी बसर कर देता है। वो बनने की कोशिश करता है जो माँ बाप की ख्वाहिश है, वो बनने की कोशिश करता है जो उसके उस्ताद चाहते हैं। मगर वो फरमा रहे हैं कि बुद्ध मज़हब के मुताबिक इंसान को अपनी ज़ात से ख़ुद भी कभी मिलना चाहिए ताकि वो दूसरों की तवक्कुआत से हट के ख़ुद भी अपनी ज़ात से तारुफ़ हासिल करे कि अल्लाह ने उसको किस मकसद के लिए पैदा किया है। वो जो सेल्फ़ डिस्कवरी है मकसद की, वो बुद्ध मज़हब की तालीमात का मेन और कोर फोकस है। अगर मैं इनके इस सेकंड हिस्से को समराइज़ करूं गुफ्तगू को, तो फ़लसफ़ा वहदतुल वजूद जो है ये उसके ऊपर सारी की सारी इन्होंने गुफ्तगू फरमाई है कि अपनी ज़ात में डूब के अपनी हकीकत को तलाश करना और अपने इर्द गिर्द के माहौल और मुआशरे में जब आप लोगों से ताल्लुकात डेवलप करते हैं तो उन ताल्लुकात के अंदर अल्लाह की रज़ा और उसकी जो मोहब्बत है इंटरनल, उसको तलाश करने की देखने कोशिश करना। और कारमा का लफ्ज़ इस्तेमाल किया इन्होंने, निर्वाणा का लफ्ज़ इस्तेमाल किया, तो उसका लुब्बे लुबाब ये है कि हर आदमी को अपने अमाल के नतीजे का सामना करना पड़ेगा। तो आप जो भी कदम उठाते हैं बड़ा सोच समझ के उठाएं, क्योंकि ज़िंदगी में उसके नतीजे से कभी भी आपका छुटकारा नहीं होगा। बुद्ध मज़हब की तालीमात के मुताबिक अगर इस दौर में, इस जन्म में आप नतीजे से भाग गए हैं तो अगले जन्म में आपको उसका सामना करना पड़ेगा। और आखिर में इन्होंने बात बड़ी खूबसूरत करते हुए इसको गुफ्तगू को ख़त्म किया कि मोहब्बत के फ़लसफ़े और मोहब्बत के वजूद को समझे बग़ैर हकीकत तक रसाई मुमकिन नहीं है। और फरमाते हैं कि मोहब्बत हमारी ज़िम्मेदारी नहीं है, बल्कि मोहब्बत हमारे वजूद की हकीकत है। और दुनिया में जितने भी रूहानी सिलसिले हैं इंक्लूडिंग बुद्धिज़्म, उन सब की बुनियाद मोहब्बत पर है, मोहब्बत के फ़लसफ़े और उसके कॉन्सेप्ट के ऊपर है। तो अगर आपने बुद्धिज़्म की तालीमात को अच्छी तरह से देखना है और बाकी मामले में भी बाकी मज़ाहब की जो तालीमात को खंगालना है और मुआशरे में मोहब्बत और बाहमी एहतराम और मोहब्बत और प्यार के जज्बों का फ़रोग़ चाहते हैं आप, तो आप मोहब्बत को इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते। और यही हमारे वजूद की भी बुनियाद है और हमारे मज़हब की भी बुनियाद है। तो इन सारी बातों के बाद आपने समराइज़ की, एक समरी रह गई थी जो आपने दुआ किया था शुरू में। तो आपने दुआया कलमात का जो शुरू में इन्होंने फरमाया था, वो एक हिंदुस्तानी बुद्ध की दुआ उन्होंने रिपीट फरमाई थी। जैसे हमारे यहाँ मुख्तलिफ़ औलिया कराम की दुआएं मशहूर होती हैं, और उनकी दुआ का लुब्बे लुबाब ये था कि अल्लाह की रज़ा के आगे अपनी मर्ज़ी और रज़ा को कुर्बान कर देना चाहिए। अल्लाह की रज़ा के लिए उसकी मखलूक से मोहब्बत और शफ़क़त से पेश आना चाहिए, और जवाबन जो तकलीफ़ मिलती है उस तकलीफ़ को भी बर्दाश्त करना, और उस तकलीफ़ के नतीजे में जो गुस्सा आता है अपने गुस्से को भी काबू रखना चाहिए। और ये बात ज़हन में रखनी चाहिए कि ज़िंदगी के तमाम हालात और वाक़यात में अल्लाह की मर्ज़ी पर फोकस रख के ज़िंदगी को ज़िंदगी के तौर पे गुजारना चाहिए। थैंक यू सो मच।
We're now going to open the house for the panel discussion. But prior to that, I'd just like to take a few moments to announce house rules. During the panel discussion, you are most welcome to ask any questions from our panelists. And also, please, it would be very, very polite to be seated down while the session is being conducted. I'd be very thankful for the gentlemen who are standing around to please take a seat. And also the ladies, could you please all sit down and settle down for the panel discussion. This is a very interesting session, and it is a panel discussion on religious pluralism. And we have a few panelists that I would like to invite for the in order to answer the question answer session, and also to be moderators of this session. The key moderator will be Dr. Herman Robo. Then we have a very prestigious guest from Forman Christian College University, Dr. Herbert Brasher. I would like him to join us on stage with us to be part of the panel. Dr. Adrian Feldman, he will be the main, he will be answering your questions, and Dr. Herman Robo will be moderating, and Dr. Naeem Mushtaq will be joining them as one of the panelists. Thank you.
Well, as you were told, this is mainly an opportunity for a discussion among ourselves about religious pluralism. What is religious pluralism? What is the relationship between the different religions? Each religion claims to be true, and we respect the truth. We are sitting here, we respect the truth which is in every religion. Every religion has truth. But what is the relationship between the different religions? That's what we call religious pluralism. Pluralism doesn't just mean diversity or many. It also means that there is a relationship between the different religions. And I'd like to invite each one of the panelists to give a very brief exposition about their view of religious pluralism. And after that, it's open to you to ask or to make comments or to ask any questions of the panelists. So I would like to invite perhaps Dr. Brasher, who is yet to speak. Dr. Brasher is member of the Religious Studies Department at FCC University, Foreman Christian College University, and he has kindly consented to come here and present his view. I don't think we need to say that it is the Christian view. We don't have to say that because every Christian thinks in a different way. Perhaps in a similarly, every Muslim would have his own or her own view. So as was said before by the translator, we are not the founders. We are the followers. So we have different views about our religions. So this is the view of Dr. Brasher, which we respect, which we listen to, and we will then ask the other speakers to present their view. So I invite Dr. Brasher to speak.
Thank you very much. I am very honored to be with you today and have appreciated very much the keynote speech from our speaker and the emphasis that he laid, and also the readings and the introductions. It opens perhaps one particular point that I would like to make at the very beginning, and that is that education and learning from one another is perhaps one of the most important aspects of conferences like this and what is happening here and what needs to be accomplished. Because very often, in my experience, there is little understanding of what the other believes and thinks and why. Along with that, I would say actually every human being is a religious being, because religion actually goes to the core of who we are as human beings. The questions of life. Why am I here? What is my purpose for life? Who made me, or what made me? Why is the human condition the way it is? These are deep questions, and we cannot avoid them. I believe firmly that even the person who says, I have no religion at all, has just made a religious statement and is in himself or herself the ultimate authority, which is also religion. So we cannot avoid this topic, and we should not avoid this topic. It also goes very deep, as I believe I understood from Dr. Feldman, it goes very deep within the human psyche. Of course it does. Because of these questions and the nature of these questions, we believe very firmly, very deeply. And why do some take it to such extreme measures as to harm others? Often because of this firmness and this desire and this zealousness for truth, because it goes so deep within us. And I think we have to first of all recognize that. And then we need to talk to each other. I believe that we will not probably find unity on a theological basis, simply because from a Christian point of view, there are things in my theological view that other religions would not accept. But we do want to find those areas where we do have a commonality, and certainly, as we heard this morning in the readings especially, we have a commonality in ethics. We have a commonality in the human status, who we are as people. And everyone wants to be meaningful. Why am I here? What is my purpose in life? And if I could say so, why has God made me? Everyone needs an answer to that question, and it runs deep. And we need to talk to one another. I come from a country, America, and I come also from Germany. And there are many problems, often because we do not know what the other believes. And even though we don't need to necessarily agree with the other, but we need to talk with one another and understand one another. I think that's sufficient.
Thank you very much. Let's Talia then. So, now I'd like to invite Dr. Naeem Mushtaq, who did such a great job translating before. Maybe he could present his particular views now, his own views as a Muslim believer on this question of religious pluralism. Dr. Mushtaq is the director of Aghosh institution down the road from here, not far away. And he's also a student, actually. He's always learning. Even at his age, he's learning. So I invite him to say what he wishes to say.
You want to speak in Urdu or in English?
In English, if you can. Yeah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Awaz aa rahi? Okay. Now, just very briefly about the word pluralism. If you analyze the last 200 years of Indo-Pak subcontinent, you will see that most of the time we are talking to each other on the basis of theology. Like if you just take the case of Christian-Muslim dialogue in India and Pakistan, most of the topic, if you go to any bookshop in the market and you say, I want to study Christianity or I want to study Judaism, or if you go to any Christian bookshop in India and you tell them, I want to study Islam from the Christian point of view, these are some of the topics you are going to find out in the market. For example, is the Bible God's word or not? Is the Jesus son of man or a prophet? Do we believe in the Trinity or do we believe in the Tawheed? Who is the real founder of Christianity, Paul or Jesus Christ? These are all topic polemics mainly focus on the theological differences. And in these books, when you go through these books and literature, even published today in the market, these are some of the attitudes you will find. For example, we are right and they are wrong. We are superior and they are inferior. We will go to heaven and they will go to hell. We are believers and they are disbelievers. We are civilized and they are uncivilized. We are solution providers and they are troublemakers. This is kind of attitude you read in the books today based on interfaith dialogue or based on Christian-Muslim relation or even Jews. Anything goes wrong in Pakistan, even the load shedding, we tend to blame the Jews and the Israel. So this is our typical mindset, and with this mindset in the society, we are talking about pluralism. And you can imagine talking of pluralism with the existing mindset is a very, very big challenge. So what is pluralism? If you go through the books, if you go through the academic literature, basically this is a religious tolerance, nothing else. Religious tolerance developed the term religious pluralism, and now we have an academic topic with the religious pluralism, but not many people understand this topic. They think maybe we have to lose our identity to accept the idea of pluralism. This is not pluralism. In pluralism, you have to maintain your identity, you have to maintain your theological difference to maintain your identity, nothing else. In pluralism, you have to respect the identity of the other person. You have to give the right to live with happiness, with peace, with love to the other person of the same community. So the pluralism is to acknowledge the reality and the existence of other people following other religions and other faith. And even if they are not following any religion, if they are atheists, they don't believe in any religion, they are secularists, still they have the right to live in the same manner you are living by following your religion. So if you ask me very briefly, how do I define pluralism? So the pluralism to me is that pluralism is not preaching but sharing. Pluralism is not about converting but serving. Pluralism is not about winning but loving. Pluralism is not becoming religious but is becoming spiritual. Pluralism is not about proving something, but is your effort to understand other people. Pluralism is not about why, but it's about why not. Pluralism is not about confrontation, but it's about cooperation. Pluralism is not about fame, but it's about peace and love. And most important of all, pluralism is not about becoming superior, it is about becoming human. The history we read in the name of religion is the history of the humans, is not the history of the God or the Prophet. We have to understand the real values presented in Quran and Sunnah, and those values which we read and practice by the Sufis in the entire history of Islam is all about pluralism. So pluralism to me is about understanding and accepting the realities that exist in the society, not necessarily with the terms and terminology adopted by your religion. A person can be close to God, but he may not be a Muslim. A person can be a peaceful, loving human being, but he may not be a Muslim. These are the realities and attitude presented in the topic of pluralism, and this is what pluralism is all about to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to ask Dr. Adrian to perhaps just present briefly his own views on religious pluralism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just briefly, as most of my worldview is that of science, I strongly believe that there is one reality to life, and Buddhism is not the sole possessor of that reality. Every teacher presents his or her subject according to the interests, the dispositions, and the capacities of the audience to understand. So superficially, naturally, the one reality is presented in different terms. Pluralism is recognizing that and not being afraid of that, and being aware that culturally we are different and we have our own ways of expressing and practicing our religion. And so pluralism is respecting that, having trust in that, and having confidence in each other's mode of practice and understanding. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So they were some introductory statements. Now it's over to you. If you wish to ask a question, please could you raise your hand and a microphone will come in your direction, please. Yes. And you could perhaps address the question to a certain person or to the whole panel. It's up to you.
It's for whole panel. So, do you think religious pluralism is feasible in the context of religions?
Context of religions. Do you think religious pluralism is feasible in the context of religions? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Anyway,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to answer that, Naeem? Yes.
To me, yes, this is possible. There are two things. One is the original religion, and second is the understanding of religion. We may have a difficulty in the understanding of religion, and that mindset may have a difficulty accepting the idea of pluralism. But if you go back to the original teaching of Quran and Sunnah, the idea of pluralism and the teachings on pluralism are there. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to say something?
Just briefly,
I believe that in every religion there is conflict amongst the followers of that religion between the definitive and the interpretative meaning of the scriptures. And so, naturally, there is, between different religions, there is superficial differences between the meaning, and whether we take it literally or interpretively is up to the individual. So we have to have deeper understanding to understand what the message is getting across. And I truly believe that when we meditate, we pray, we investigate the meaning of the scriptures, we will all come to a similar conclusion, the one reality.
Thank you. Dr. Brasher?
Yes, thank you. Certainly, we have commonalities in the ethical realm. Jesus was not, for example, Jesus of Nazareth was not the only one who said, "Love, do unto others as you would have others do unto you." Statements like this are common across every religion that I have had the privilege of learning something about. And it's those commonalities that we need to discover. And the only way we can do that is in conversation with each other. Just a brief explanation. In my experience in North America, before I was privileged to come to FC College here in Lahore, one of the things that we did was with the churches, with some of the local mosques, we had what we called meetings for a better understanding. And we would take even a theological topic at times, but we would take a topic and we would have it either in a church or a mosque, and one Muslim speaker and one Christian speaker would have the same amount of time to speak to the topic, and then we would have, like we're having now, the discussion afterwards. We did not come to an agreement always on theological positions, but we certainly came to a better understanding of what and why the others believe what they do, and a better appreciation for them as human beings, and realized, they are not what they are presented perhaps in the press. My apologies to the media that are present. This, to me, is one of the things that needs to happen, and part of what I believe firmly in that sense in religious pluralism.
Stressing dialogue, stressing...
Dialogue, education, talking to one another is crucial.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a perspective we all share. Another question from over there? Yes, please.
I would like you to comment on this, that as a seeker of truth, I think that identity crisis, that who am I and what is my real purpose of life, is being manipulated badly by political or social agencies. So how we can overcome these barriers to know ourselves, to self-awareness, how we can come these kind of barriers?
Well, that's another very good question. Thank you very much. I think that's really a question that Dr. Adrian should begin with.
Very briefly, to be able to successfully establish a spiritual path and follow it, one necessarily relies upon a qualified teacher. If we don't have a qualified teacher, we cannot advance on the path. And the meaning of a qualified teacher is one who lives or practices according to the way he preaches or she preaches. So that is the essence. Find a qualified guru. It's the only solution, actually.
Simple, practical answer. Maybe, is there any other suggestions from Dr. Brasher or Dr. Naeem?
Political questions are very, very difficult. And I don't know that, I'm certainly not qualified to address them. But I would say this conference is the bottom line, because again, this goes even much deeper than the political issues. This goes into the soul of what is a human being, and learning to respect one another as human beings made by God. This is so key that it underlines, if we do this, if we continue to do what we are doing today in talking with one another, it will eventually work itself out in the political realm. But otherwise, political aspects are very complex, and I don't see a way to address them in just a minute or two.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Naeem?
It's a very difficult question, but the best I can suggest, I have gone through the same process also. Read biographies of successful people, how they have gone through these situations. When you see there is manipulation by the government and the agencies, the best thing to do is to read directly the biography of Holy Prophet Muhammad. Read the 4 Gospels, you go through the biography of Jesus Christ. They have all gone through the same experiences. Learn how they deal with these issues. You will learn the methodology, you will learn the direction by reading their biographies. And also look around you, what type of people you are surrounded by. Sometimes they help you discover your purpose of life. And sometimes look which organization, which books you are reading, which religious personality you are following. Sometimes you have to study the environment you are living in, and the answers are there. But the best thing to discover those answers is to train yourself to discover those answers. And the best way to train yourself is to go through the biographies. You will learn how they discover their purpose, and by applying their methodology, you can learn to discover yours.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? One
Yes.
over here.
One.
Yes.
One from this side, please. Dr. Ahmed.
Yes.
May I be given the privilege to ask a very simple question? And we are living in a period of utter confusion, especially in Pakistan. We are talking about peace, and I would like the representative from FC College, please, if you could, and the panelists, to please answer this particular question of mine. A developed West, Dr. Ziauddin Sadar once said, the power of the West lies in defining everything. It is the West which defines everything. And therefore, I am of the opinion, and I would like the panel to sort of react, that West has played a very important role in subverting peace in the world by promoting secularism and marginalizing religion. Religion has been reduced to the level of individual practice only. And today, when we are, living in a globalized world, we know that religion has a role to play. At least this is what we are here for. And the West has played a very important role in subverting peace by promoting secularism. Everything is secular today. Economics is secular, politics is secular, democracy is secular, and this is what the West had been promoting and continues to promote and wants to define it also. Thank you.
So Dr. Brasher, would you like to begin with? Yes.
Yes, and agreeing with what you say. Let me go back to one of the first statements that I firmly believe every person has a religion, and when we say the secular West has, the West has promoted secularism, I can only agree. And this, I think we should acknowledge, is a religion. It says, this religion says that I am the only person that matters. Gratification of my desires is the first thing that matters. What happens to others is secondary. This is a religion which I, as a Christian, cannot agree with. I must respect the individuals. They are human beings, and hopefully, my Christian theology tells me that there is a deep sin within, but hopefully they will also learn in contact with one another, in discussing education with one another. But I can only agree with you. Christianity. When I think back, our honorable Dr. Naeem just said it. Jesus Christ was crucified because of politics. He had to battle, in his biography, we are told, constantly with religious authorities. And we will face, as religious people, in a growing secular globalization, we will face some of these same battles. But how will we struggle with them? I believe we can only struggle with them as we testify to the truth, as we live out the truth, and as we do not let ourselves be captivated by the idols of, if I may use that word, the idols of self-gratification, me first.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ali. Would you like to say something? Yes, first of all, I think we'd like to hear from Dr. Adrian as well.
Just briefly, I am a refugee from Western secularism and materialism, as is evidenced by my being a Buddhist monk. You are absolutely right in what you said. And I guess politics are so often contradictory to religion. I said to my qualified spiritual friend, his name was Lama Yeshe, many years ago, 40 years ago, I said, Lama, I would like to learn to speak Tibetan. He said, no dear, don't learn to speak Tibetan. If you learn to speak Tibetan, you'll learn about Tibetan politics. And if you learn about Tibetan politics, you'll give up Buddhism. So that's it.
Thank you. There's another question over here somewhere.
Excuse me. Assalamu alaikum. Muhammad Slim here.
Yes.
My question is, what is the main difference between Islam and other religions, especially Sikhism? Thank you.
That's a rather doctrinal question. I would suggest we leave that for the moment, and we listen to the other questions, because our time is limited, and I'd like to hear the other questions first.
Excuse me. I want to be excused.
No, you're not. We can't hear you.
I want to be excused because my question is somewhat a deviation from the theme of this conference. I would like to direct it towards Dr. Adrian. So what we have been seeing in Myanmar, we have been grown up listening and thinking that Buddhism is the preacher of peace and tolerance, and it prohibits cutting and even the trees. So should we think that for Myanmar the meanings and teachings of Buddhism has been changed, or was there how can you explain the things going on in Myanmar and sort of a genocide of Muslims?
Thank you. Very important question. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has said that there is no such thing as an Islamic terrorist, because terrorism, the killing of innocent people who have done no apparent wrong, is contradictory to Islam. So it is a contradiction in terms to talk about an Islamic terrorist. There is no such thing. If you're a terrorist, you're not Islamic. And the same thing in Myanmar. The persecution of the Rohingya people by supposedly Buddhist practitioners is, in a similar way, it is totally contradictory to Buddhist teachings and practice. So I can only echo the Dalai Lama's comments that they are not Buddhists, because what they have done to the Rohingya people is the absolute antithesis of Buddhist teachings.
Thank you for a very short, clear answer. Yes.
My question is.
No, I think there's somebody
Sir,
here.
I
as
am
well.
here.
They're over here. Yes, please.
Sir,
Microphone.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
My question is regarding, we just had a brief mention of the media, and what role do you think the media has played with regards to religious pluralism? And secondly, has it been a positive role or a negative role? And thirdly, what could be done to promote religious pluralism by the media that it's not doing at this moment? Thank you.
Who would like to begin with that question? All right, thank you.
To my side, I think first of all, media needs to understand the real definition of the word pluralism, what it means to be a pluralistic society. Pluralism is not about eliminating differences, theological differences. If you are a Muslim, you are a Muslim. If you are a Hindu, you are a Hindu. If you are a Christian, you are a Christian. Pluralism is not about eliminating differences. What we need to do in media is to maintain the religious identity of various religious groups in the society by promoting, by eliminating differences and promoting pluralism will create another problem in the society. People will be confused what is Islamic, what is not Islamic. Pluralism is about focusing on commonalities, your religious commonalities, theological commonalities, ethical commonalities, and learning to live in the same house in spite of theological differences. This is pluralism to me. And I think media needs to understand its theological background, its academic background, and then accordingly design program that can focus on improving relationship, not on disturbing theology. Thank you.
I would just like to say, I don't think that I got the answer to my question. I do understand what pluralism is. My question was, what role can the media play in promoting it? And secondly, do you think that the media, the role that it is playing in the religions of today, is it promoting pluralism or otherwise? Those were the questions that I wanted to ask.
If I may answer this second question first, the answer is yes. To both. It is both positive and negative. And what can the media do from my perspective? It is an instrument for good. It can be an instrument for good. Please, those who are directing the media, if you would give ample opportunity for a presentation of religious positions, beliefs. This cannot be done in 5-second sound bites. And here's, I think, the problem is that the media perceives, and probably correctly so, that, at least coming from an American perspective, we want everything quickly. Please give it to me in 5 seconds. It cannot be done. So if the media could also have an educational role in overcoming that, in presenting debates or discussions that go into the issues, and in helping the public to be patient, to listen, and to educate. And it goes back to liberal arts education and all that's involved in that.
Thank you very much. Very good answer. Would you have anything to add?
Sir, my question.
No, wait a minute. Just a minute, please. Just a minute.
Oh, just very briefly. The media is so important for the future of society, world society, both good and bad. There are two types of journalists. There are idiots and there are good ones. And there are also media owners of different newspapers and so on. So you're right. Both things can happen. Religious pluralism can be enhanced or it can be destroyed by the media.
Thank you very much. Was there a question there? Yes.
Sir, my question regarding religion is that religion has always been a sort of social integration. But as we are moving toward global, it has divided religion into different sects on the both on national level and international level. So what are the reasons that are dividing people? This is my question.
What are the reasons for sectarianism? Is that the question? Yes. Well, maybe that could, if whoever wishes to say something about that could begin. Sectarianism, where does that come from? I think the answer already was given in the keynote speech. It comes from inside. It comes from not being aware of what's happening inside, from with one's own emotions, one's own feelings. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I believe that sectarianism arises from immature minds, whereas mature minds are much more open and accepting of each other.
Sectarianism, and the answer in the meaning of that my sect is right and the others are wrong. That kind of sectarianism we're talking about. Would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, just briefly, if you there's two concepts: regional theology and universal theology. If you go through the books, text, the Holy Quran and the Sunnah, with keeping a particular region in mind, you may focus on sectarianism.
Yes.
But you need to keep the whole of mankind. You need to develop a universal theology with focus on humanity, not just a particular region in India or Pakistan.
Thank you very much. So maybe we have one or two questions left. The lady is
Sir,
here.
I have a-
Yes, go ahead. go
Mrs.
ahead.
Salmanat, HOD Behavior and Minhaj University.
Yes, hold the
I,
microphone to your mouth so we can understand.
I have a, you can say as well as finding as well as a question. There is a misperception among all the people that more religious mean more conflict. I think that there is a no direct relation between conflict and the religion. Religion doesn't mean clash. Do you think there is a correlation or a direct relation between the conflict or religion, or these are the inverse proportional property?
Did you get the question? No. The conflict between religion? No. There's a conflict between?
Religion and conflict. Is there is a correlation or the direct proportion between the religion or conflict, or there is an inverse proportion between the religion and the conflict?
So the relationship between religion and conflict, that's the question. A broad question about the relationship between conflict and religion. Yes, Dr. Brasher?
Again, I come back to the fact that these religious questions go very deep within us and are part of identity, who we are. We've grown up with answers, and increasingly in a globalized world, we're faced with other views. How do we deal with those? With respect, bottom line, nutshell, with respect for the other as a human being, recognizing that there are theological differences. Are religions at the root of conflicts? Very often, but not always. Sometimes politics is at the root. Very often, even more, I think, politics that uses religion claims. I have people in America who claim to be Christians and yet who act totally contrary to the teachings of Christ. So there's a conflict there already. And so it can, but it doesn't have to. Religion can be a source of great blessing.
Thank you.
Sir, I have finding there is a direct relation between the religion and the conflict. Diversity mean beautiful. Diversity is a beautiful thing. I have so many people belong different religion. There is a no bad or a worse thing or ugly. It's a very beautiful thing, and Allah like this. It is not a bad thing.
Thank you very much.
Sir,
Thank you for your comment. Any other
we
questions?
have two more questions
Sir,
that
over
we
here.
would
Yes,
take.
hello. Yes, and this gentleman here with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sayyid Umar there, sir.
Okay.
From Minhaj University.
Okay.
Where are you speaking from?
Atheists have been briefly
Yes, no, it's okay. You can ask your question, please.
Atheists have
And
been
then we'll
briefly
take
mentioned.
yours.
Okay. Atheists have been briefly mentioned.
I have a question for all the panel. What kind of measures?
Excuse me, we'll take this question first, and then we will take yours.
Thank you.
Okay, could you wait? Thank you.
Atheists have been briefly mentioned earlier, and a perspective was given that it's been taken as a religious thought. But I believe with so many religions being in the world, still atheism is on an increase. And how does the panel look at atheists while they won't even consider them to be religious, and they won't even consider them to be part of the religious pluralism? Thank you.
The other question?
We'll take the other question as well, then the panel can answer both the queries.
Okay, thank you. What kind of measures can be taken by the governments of the world to make peace in world?
Huge questions. What can the governments do to bring peace to the world? And the first one is, what is atheism? What's your view on atheism? Is it a religion? What is atheism? Is atheism as a religion or not? Or how do we respond to atheism? How do you respond to atheism in the context of religious pluralism? And the second question was, what role do governments play in bringing peace, making peace in the world? Very big, broad questions, but maybe you have a comment? Nobody? Dr. Naeem?
For the atheism.
डॉक्टर साहब एक्सक्यूज़ मी इधर बराए करम मेरे सवाल का जो है वो आप ट्रांसलेशन कर दीजिएगा. मियाँ हबीब मेरा नाम है, मैं 92 न्यूज़ से मेरा तल्लक है. देखा गया है कि दुनिया में मज़हब को तमाम क़ुव्वतों ने इस्तेमाल किया है, ख़ास करके जितनी सुपर पावर्स हैं उनका कोई दीन मज़हब नहीं है. उन्होंने इस ना सिर्फ मज़हब को जो है अपनी बरतरी के लिए, तसल्लुत के लिए दुनिया पर अपने आप इस्तेमाल किया है, बल्कि उन्होंने माशी तसल्लुत के लिए, माशी फ़वाइद के लिए भी मज़हब को इस्तेमाल किया है. और ख़ास करके आप देखें कि पूरी दुनिया में जो है 2-3 जो सुपर पावर्स हैं या उसकी दौड़ में शामिल हैं, किसी ने अपने हथियारों के ज़रिए एक ख़ास मज़हब को जो है वो दहशतगर्द करार देकर दुनिया पर कब्ज़ा करने की कोशिश की है, और किसी ने जो है वो माशी तौर पर जो है कब्ज़ा करने के लिए मज़हब को इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं. जी.
Economic society. Politics and economics. That's what religion is being used to by these economists. So maybe you can start.
Yeah, maybe atheism. Just wanted to comment on atheism. They are also a part of society, so they can be a part of pluralism. Pluralism is to accept the right of to live with love and life with peace, with the same equal rights in the society. So atheism to me is also a point of view, is also a religion if you take it. If you take atheism from Islamic point of view, they are not religious. But you take atheism, to me they are humanism. They focus more on humanity, and that is the part of the religion with the focus on humanity. If you look at the secularist teachings or the agendas, what they are claiming, they are against the misuse of religion basically. But if you present to them the same thing, we present to them the same reality in religious terms. That's why we are called religious. They present the same reality in secular terms, and they are called secularists. But to me, they are also one of the part and parcel of the society, and they can also be considered a separate religion. And they have the equal right to live in the same society, same rights that we are enjoying. This is what pluralism to me also.
Thank you very much. Dr. Adrian, would you like to say something about either question, the atheism or the role of government in society in making peace?
Yes, just briefly again. When we talk about atheism, it brings up the question of what is God. And even in any one religion, there is different opinions as to what God is. The real test, as we've just heard, about one's religious practice is if one obeys a system of ethical conduct of morality, of non-harmfulness towards others. That is the essence of all religions, and atheists, is a general term, are equally and very often moral and and ethical in their behavior, and that is the commonality that we should pursue.
Yes, thank you very much. That's very clear.
We
Thank you.
can.
We have
There's
the
a
answer from
comment?
Dr.
I want to
Rashid.
ask.
Fear. Fear lies at the core of a human being. And it is fear that we must overcome, first of all, at the family level, and the local level, and in the areas that we personally can be involved. Governments fear as well. And that is where our involvement at each level, whatever level God may place us in, at each level, our job is to promote and to help one another overcome that basic fear and insecurity that needs to be. And government fears as well. So how can we help government? This is a question, a complex question, but I think a part of the answer. And to the atheism, I think I've already said something. So
There's just one last question that we
Excuse me,
take
sir.
from
Sir,
the
I want to
female
ask a question.
side. There's a female side. We would like to take a question from there. Yes, please.
Sir, as we are discussing religious pluralism, so I want to ask that what can be the role or the importance of mysticism in this regard?
My question is, will pluralism lead to fictions? Why media promoting fictions in religious pluralism? And how we can control the media to spread the fictions in religious pluralism?
I don't know.
Can you please repeat the question?
Yes, I can repeat. Will pluralism lead to fictions?
Could you please stand up so we know
She's
where you're
right
speaking?
here.
I can't even see you.
Why don't you come to the front of the hall?
We can't see you. That's
Yes.
better. Thank you very much. Yes.
Will pluralism lead to fictions? Why media promoting fictions in religious pluralism? And how we can control the media to spread the fictions in religious pluralism?
Excuse me, you mean fiction or what?
Yes, fictions.
Fiction.
Yes.
You're saying religion leads to fiction?
Yes, man-made things, yes.
Yes, okay.
Man-made
Is that
talks,
question
man-made
clear?
things.
Is the question clear?
Why?
No.
The question is still not very clear.
Is it friction?
Friction or fiction?
Fictions.
Fiction.
F-S-C-T-I-N.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Fictions.
Make believe. Make believe.
Mm.
Religions lead to make believe, to fiction. And what's the question? That's a statement. What's the question?
Will pluralism lead to fictions? Why media promoting fictions in religious pluralism? And how we can control the media to spread the fictions in religious pluralism?
Okay. I'm glad I don't have to answer that.
So briefly. Briefly, again. Friction does not come from pluralism or from religions. Friction, disharmony, violence comes from selfishness, from anger, from pride, from jealousy and attachment in individuals' minds. If each of us controls our own mind, then the answer is there.
Yes, I think you need to explain what you mean by fiction. It's not very clear.
Maybe you can carry on your conversation over lunch. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, it would be, I would like to invite the guests first. The questions now will be discussed in the panel discussions later on, and also during the lunch hour. You will have a chance to...
Excuse me, I'd like to say something else. I would like to suggest that those people, there are quite a few people who have questions, and if you could write your question on a piece of paper and give those questions to me, I will find a way of answering them through the panel in the conference. Write them on a piece of paper and give the questions to me.
Excellent idea. Thank you, audience. We would like the guests first to please make your way to lunch. Thank you, panelists. Dr. Adrian Feldman, Dr. Brasher, and Dr. Naeem Mushtaq. Thank you so much.